Hello there, very good evening to you. Thanks for joining us here on Ideal World. The next hour, very serious hour, we're going to be talking to the planning crowd about something that is serious for all of us. We're talking about planning for the future. And when you hear that term, you may well be thinking about a wedding, you might be thinking about a cruise or a holiday, but many of us don't plan for the inevitable. We don't plan for our last day on the planet, and we don't plan for what happens if we become seriously ill. And so what we'll be talking about tonight is protecting what you own for your loved ones, protecting what you own for your family. And the planning crowd will be talking to us about estate and end-of-life planning. We'll talk about wills and testaments, and we'll be talking about lasting power of attorney. Now, if these don't mean anything to you right now, don't worry, because that's exactly what the show's all about. And when you hear the importance of it, when you think about the people, the loved ones that you leave behind, well, it's hard enough, it's tough enough, it's difficult enough when you lose somebody. But it's very difficult when you're left behind and you're wondering what you should be doing. Passing away is something that eventually affects all of us. And we know it's going to happen to us, but we need to plan for it. And we can also take care of our health, but lots of us take that for granted. And we never know when we're going to be ill. So we will be talking about the lasting power of attorney. And again, if that doesn't mean much to you, you'll hear us talk about LPA quite often through the show. It's lasting power of attorney, and you'll learn why it is so important to you. Now, many people know that they should plan for the future, and many people know that they should have a will, but they don't have, and perhaps that's you. And I can understand why. I mean, personally, I do have a will. I've got 4 kids, and I know the importance of having a will, so I do have one. But I'll share a story with you a little later about my mum, who's now in her 70s, and she didn't have a will until she talked to the planning crowd. And so you can turn things around very quickly, very easily tonight. And of course, life gets in the way. We have lots of excuses. Well, I've got this, I've got to go to work, I've got to take care of the kids, I've got the school run. I know. It can be very difficult, but it's so important. And when the inevitable does happen, and let's be honest, it will happen. We just don't know when. None of us plan for it. We don't know it's going to be in a week or 2 weeks or a year or hopefully decades away. So stay with us, because the planning crowd will help us to open your eyes. They'll give you the opportunity to learn some fantastic things and some great offers lined up for you here at Ideal World. So look after yourself, and when the inevitable does come, the planning crowd are going to make things nice and easy for you. So let me introduce you to the team this evening. 2 people join us. We've got Ian Peace, who's a director of the company, and we've also got Helen Hill. And Helen, I believe you're head of the legal department.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, great to meet you. And am I right in saying that you've just won an award of some sort?
Yeah, I have actually. It's an industry award for contribution in the wills and probate sector.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Sounds brilliant. Come on, these are the people that we should be listening to. And I've written down loads and loads of questions that I think that you would want to ask. So let me start with my first one. This one's for Ian. Ian, before we get going, tell us a little more about the planning crowd and what it is that you do with them.
Certainly. We're a legal services firm. We specialise, as you've just mentioned, in end-of-life planning, which sounds rather drastic, but it's not. It's a really positive thing that people do, because it's a really positive and selfless step. And we have a range of services that help us provide that. So effectively we specialise in end-of-life planning, helping people protect their assets and helping people look after the family. And that goes through a raft of things. We even manage people's assets for them. So we currently manage about £360 million in trust assets.
Oh my goodness,
we
wow.
help draft trusts for people. Obviously wills is a massive part of what we do, as is lasting power of attorney. But tied in with that is things like dealing with the Office of Public Guardian, which is something else that we're going to talk about today, and also the Court of Protection. So it's a full range of legal services that we provide, headed up by the award-winning Helen Hill. Notice you didn't mention my cycling proficiency certificate, Paul.
I'm so sorry.
However, on a serious note, we have a raft of professionals that are there to take people's calls and help them with any situation that they've got. And because of the range of services that we provide, we can pretty much help anyone that comes to us.
Yeah, I know we showed you a list of some of the services that are offered right now. But Helen, I've heard a lot in the news recently, a lot on TV about trusts. I wonder if you can elaborate a little more on trusts. What are they? What are they all about?
Yeah, so a trust is a way of leaving assets to your beneficiaries. There's 2 main types. One that you can set up during your lifetime and put your assets into now, and one that's included within your will. And it comes into effect when you're no longer around. But basically you choose who's going to benefit.
Yeah.
You appoint trustees to manage those assets for them, but it allows a bit of discretion about when they inherit. So you might think, well, my children, I don't want them to inherit at 18, and I'm not sure whether they're going to need funds for university. I'd like to appoint someone who I trust to manage that fund for them and release money as and when it's required. So they are really popular, you're absolutely right, and there's a complete raft of different products, but if people speak to us, we can recommend anything that's appropriate.
Great, and that's something you'll hear about throughout the show. My next question is to Ian, and I want to know a little more about probate. That's a word we hear, and bereavement. We hear these words, but not everyone knows what it's all about.
Yeah, there's a lot of myth around wills and our last days, and some people think because they've made a will that somehow avoids probate, but probate is basically a legal process for someone sorting out your estate after you've passed away.
Right.
The will is the vehicle for telling somebody that this is what you want to happen. So not only do we help our clients write a will today, but at the point of need we're also there to help the family. So we have an estate administration department and a probate department that help people do this. We either work with them or we give them advice. We even offer a bereavement service as well, so we'll actually go and sit with the family if need be and hold their hand and talk them through what needs to happen now and make sure that our clients' wishes are fulfilled, because it can be quite an arduous task at an already difficult time. So as I've just said, it isn't really about just making a will and then saying thanks very much, bye-bye, good luck. It's about making a will, making sure that will stays relevant for the clients for the rest of their lifetime, and then being there at the point of need, and that's what probate and estate administration is all about.
I think it's clear already, we're only a few minutes into the show, but you can see that this is a full service. So this isn't just, write a will, that's not all this is about, there's so much more. Helen, my next question is to you. I wonder if you can tell our viewers, why should they choose the Planning Crowd to write their wills?
I think mainly because of the range of services that we offer. We've got vast experience, it's what we specialise in. You know, we've been doing this a long time, and it's what we're dedicated to doing, helping people to plan for this eventuality and making sure that all our products are absolutely tailored to their specific circumstances.
Yeah.
And that's a real key thing. We offer a really personal service.
Yeah.
So everyone who is watching the show will have different circumstances. They'll have different family situations, they'll own different assets, they'll have different wishes. And we can make sure that all of that is dealt with and all put into bespoke documents for them. And we hold their hand right the way through. So a lot of people will be thinking, I don't even know where to start. Yeah. I don't even know what I need to know to be able to write my will. Well, you don't need to worry about any of that. We will walk you through the process. We take you through a real personal journey. It can take as long as you want. And at the end of it, we'll make sure that the documents that you get are completely right for your circumstances.
I think if this already resonates with you, if you already know, maybe there's a little voice in your head saying, I should write a will. And maybe you've been putting it off for weeks, maybe you've been putting it off for years and years and years. Let's go through what's available to you this evening. First of all, it's really easy to call the team. That number, the team are in Lincoln and Cardiff, they're waiting for your calls right now. 0333 600 2600. So you can call the team and have a chat with them. And let me go through what's available to you. First of all, if you'd like to get that family and estate will, should be £139, but we're taking that down to £59, so there's an £80 saving there, but then we'll also put it onto the 4 flexi payment system, so literally £14.75 to get yourself started. Then we've got the P&A, which is property and assets lasting power of attorney, £325. We'll take that down to £179, so by going through Ideal World right here, right now, you can save £146. But you won't need to pay it all in full today, just £44.75. And of course, you could just call the team and have a chat with them right now. These are individually tailored advice that you're getting. And then finally, if you go for the two, if you go for the will and the lasting power of attorney, it's what again we call the LPA, then that should be £464. But we've got a £265 saving, taking it down to £199. But again, 4 flexi payments, so under £50 today. And when you think just how important this is, when you think how important this is for you and for those that you leave behind, it's so important to give them a call right now. 0333 600 2600. Now, we want you to quote this offer code so that the team know what you mean. TPC, as in the Planning Crowd, 015. TPC, the Planning Crowd, 015. It's as simple as that. Just use that term when you get through to the team. Now, if you do call, and this does happen through some of the shows, if you do call and it's really, really busy, then there is an alternative. You could always text. I say call first, call first, call first. But if you can't get through, then just text the word WILL, W-I-L-L, to 66777. And text the charge at your normal rate. But again, my advice is give the team a call. In fact, the earlier you call, the more likely you are to get through right away. Now, I've got lots of questions to ask. I'm going to be moving on to my next one. This one's for Helen. Helen, I know we've been through quite a range of things. We showed on the screen all the things that we can do. I'm presuming that you must be able to meet most people's needs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I was saying, everyone's circumstances are different, and there will be people sat at home who will think, well, how on earth am I going to sort out my situation? Relationships and families are very different today. A lot of people are on kind of second relationships or second marriages, have children from different relationships, and they can, in their eyes, have quite complex circumstances. But rest assured that we can help with that and we can deal with it. I don't think there'll be very much, or if anything at all, that we haven't seen before. All the staff that you'll be speaking to are trained, highly trained on developing our services to make sure that they meet all these needs. So don't worry. If you've got questions, the best thing to do is just to speak to somebody.
Great. And Ian, we just talked about the client care team in Lincoln. I wonder if you can tell us a little more about them.
As Ellen alluded to there, this is what they do every day. Every day this is what they do. So they've come across virtually every scenario. But we also carry out what's called continued professional development. So there's regular training, it's ongoing to make sure we're always giving best advice and best practice. And obviously they share the information so that they learn from each other as well, so that we can help all our clients. You know, so if there is a particularly complex case, then that forms part of the training. We keep the client's identity out of it, but the scenarios they build from. So sometimes I think people put off making a will because they think that their situation might be really complex. And the irony is we'll often get at the start of a consultation, someone will say, mine's really complex. And to us, bizarrely, it's actually quite easy.
Right.
And then you'll get someone that will say, I only need a simple will, and theirs turns out to be super complex. So it's, you know, but as Helen said, the thing to do is to speak to the client care team. They will be able to help you. If you've got any questions, they will be able to answer you. You know, and if today the phones are really, really busy, just take a couple of minutes just to register your interest, I said, and then you can have a full-blown conversation at your convenience. But the all-important thing is to take that first step. And make that initial phone call. Yeah,
and it is so simple. It is literally a matter of picking up the phone and calling the team. Simple as that. And if anyone's in doubt watching right now, Helen, who needs a will and what should they do first?
Everyone needs to consider putting a will in place. You might think that you don't need one, that you haven't got any assets, or you know your affairs are simple. And one of the key problems that we have is that people assume that if they don't have a will in place, that there are provisions that will help.
Oh, right.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of misunderstanding about what actually happens if you haven't got a will in place. And one of the key things that we want to achieve by doing these shows is to inform people about the problems that can be caused if you don't plan. And it's not you that's going to be affected, it's going to be your family and loved ones that are left behind.
And they're already in pain because you've gone.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what we want to do. We want to educate people about the problems that can be caused, and hopefully that will encourage people to actually make a difference and take that first step and speak to us. You don't need to know everything today. When you call, you're not going to be on the phone for half an hour. It's just a couple of minutes to register your interest. Then we can make an appointment at a convenient time. You can sit at home in your own home with a cup of tea, and then you can have a chat with one of our consultants.
Perfect.
And before that appointment, we'll give you some information as well. So we'll tell you the questions that we're going to ask, give you some things to think about, and you'll have plenty of time to plan ahead. Today, you don't need any of that. It's literally a couple of minutes. Take advantage of the offer, register your interest, and we'll take it all from there.
I think it's really clear from what we've already learned how important a will is. But Ian, why do you think that people don't get around to doing a will?
There's much more sexy things to spend your money on than a will. But the irony is, if you speak to people, if people ask me what I do for a living, I say I'm a will writer, because I'm a qualified will writer. And invariably someone will say, oh, I've been meaning to make a will. It's the most common response that I get. But of course, I think you said it yourself, Paul, life gets in the way. You know, there are more important things. And I think people do think that it might be complex and a prolonged process. And actually, it doesn't have to be, and usually isn't. It's usually pretty straightforward, but it's all about taking that first step. And I think what we've tried to do, certainly through the exclusive offers on these shows, is also make it a really affordable thing to be able to do as well. You know, we pay insurances, we pay pet insurance, boiler insurance, car insurance. We pay for all these things monthly that we may never need, and yet the one thing that we know that our families will need, this one thing that you can do, this selfless act, we often don't quite get around to it. And it's heartbreaking for us at the office, because when we get a phone call after someone's passed away that hasn't planned, that's when all the problems start.
Right.
And we know that we could have resolved that with a 20-minute phone call.
Yeah.
So don't put it off. You know, just do something really, really brilliant for your family, and just make that initial phone call and register your interest.
A couple of times we've talked about the LPA, lasting power of attorney, I think you said it was.
Yeah.
So how does that fit into the estate planning needs?
Well, I think a pretty obvious statement, you used the word inevitable, is your family will use a will.
Yeah.
Your will get used at some point.
Yeah.
What a lasting power of attorney does is help you, whilst you're able today, to empower someone that you trust to look after your affairs if you find yourself in a position where you can't look after them yourself. So what it is if you write a will today, you know that you've taken care of the inevitable, and the lasting power of attorney, if you like, covers the between now and that point in case life throws you a curveball. Cruel things in life are always going to happen to somebody else until sadly they happen to you or someone that you love.
Yeah, yeah.
And I live my life very simply by I plan for the worst, I go to a dark place for 2 minutes, what's the worst that could happen? I plan for that eventuality, but then I hope for the best, knowing that if life does throw me or my family a curveball, that I've got that protection in place. And that, very, very briefly, is what a lasting power of attorney does.
Okay, that's really, really important. In fact, if again this is resonating with you, at some point if you think, I should do this, I need to do this, you heard Helen say it's just a phone call, and you haven't got to organise everything tonight. It's just a simple chat with the team. So write the number down. Write that number down right now. Give it a call right now and have a chat with them, because they are waiting for your call right now. Let me remind you of the offers that we've got available to you and the savings that are available. First of all, if you'd like to go for that family and estate will, £139, but today an £80 saving. And bear in mind, these deals, these aren't forever. This is only available to September the 18th. So please take advantage of that right now. And of course, you don't pay the £59 today, it's just £14.75. First of 4 flexi payments. Then of course you've got the P&A, that's the Property and Affairs Lasting Power of Attorney, £325, £146 saving. £146 that you don't spend, £146 that stays in your pocket, and in fact your first payment is just $44.75. And then finally, if you'd like to go for both of these, the will and the LPA, the lasting power of attorney, well, that's a £265 saving. £265 that stays in your pocket, and your first payment today just $49.75. So important. Helen, a couple of times there we've used the term LPA, that lasting power of attorney. If somebody's watching and still doesn't quite get what that means, can you go into a little more detail about an LPA?
Yeah, of course. So a lasting power of attorney is a document that gives someone the authority to act on your behalf. So it's something that you create now while you've got the capacity to do so, that appoints the person that you would want to manage your affairs if you can't do that. There are 2 types of LPA. There's a health and welfare LPA, and that's the one where you appoint an attorney to make decisions about your care and your medical treatment and things like where you live.
Yeah.
The one we're talking about today is the Property and Affairs one, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And that's the one that gives someone authority to handle basically all your day-to-day finances. So bank accounts, utility bills, even things like claiming benefits. I mean, can you imagine if you were in a situation where you were poorly and there was help available, but nobody could do that on your behalf because you weren't able to do it. Wow. So it's a really powerful document. So it's the Property and Affairs one that we're talking about today.
Okay, and I guess, Ian, why is it so important to have this lasting power of attorney in place? And what happens if something goes wrong?
If anyone's ever tried to deal with an institution or an organisation where they're not the account holder, you'll know how difficult it is. Well, it's impossible. Unless you're prepared to lie and try and pretend to be somebody else, you'll understandably bump into data protection issues. Yeah. And even though you might have the absolute best intentions at heart, an organisation or an institution aren't going to deal with you because you're not the account holder. Right. And we take for granted every morning when you wake up, you throw the quilt back, you get out of bed and you get on with your daily routine. You might speak to the bank, you might pay a bill here, you might collect some money there. We take for granted doing what we do, and rightly so. But the second that you can't do that, unfortunately, no one can just step into your shoes and carry that on for you. And that's where the power of the lasting power of attorney comes in. And that's why it's so important, because going back to my planning for the worst and hoping for the best, I don't want to cause any more anguish for my family. If something horrible's happened to me, I want them to be able to step into my shoes and make the decisions without any more hassle.
Yeah.
Because the alternative to not having a lasting power of attorney is very expensive, very lengthy, and is just an absolute nightmare, to be frank. And so again, we're back to this thing. It's a really, really selfless thing to do. Myself and my wife Jeannie, we've both got lasting powers of attorney in place, but of course, touch wood, we hope that neither of us never need to use them.
Of course.
But the reality of the situation is, if we are unfortunate where one or both of us loses capacity, we've planned ahead. So that document can be registered with the Office of Public Guardian, and then our chosen attorneys, who we trust and we love, can act in our place. And that, for me, gives me massive peace of mind. So that's short question, long answer. That's why it's so important, because we see both sides of the coin. We see people that have planned, and we help them register the lasting power of attorney, and the families that can, for want of a better description, just get on with it.
Yeah.
We get phone calls where someone hasn't planned, and that's where Helen and her team, through the Court of Protection, have to go on a very expensive, very lengthy process to do what could have been done in a 20-minute phone call for a few pound a month.
I was going to say, what we're showing you is so affordable. In fact, Helen, what do our viewers need to know to take advantage of these offers?
They don't need to know anything right now. I mean, yes, hopefully our show will be making them think about things and maybe raise further questions, but actually today, you don't need any of this. You don't need to know exactly what you want to happen. You just need to know that you want to take that first step.
Yeah.
Give us a call, send us a text. We know that people do like to watch the show all the way through, so if you want to text, we can call you back. But it's all about taking that first step, and that's really important.
Well, there's the text number if you'd like to take advantage of it. Of course, phone number's at the bottom of the screen. I'd certainly encourage you to call right now. The earlier you call, the more likely you are to get through to the team. And as we go through the show, more and more people realise just how important this is. You use the term peace of mind, and it really is peace of mind for you. And more importantly, bear in mind that once you have gone, it's the people that are left behind that struggle, and they're in enough emotional turmoil as it is, and so you're helping them out. I like the term you said earlier. This is a selfless thing to do. You're helping your friends, your family, to deal with your loss. So just make a phone call, talk to the team right now. Just take a few minutes of your time. So let's continue our journey. This time I'd like to know, well, I guess we're talking time and time again about how important it is to plan ahead. That's what this is really all about, isn't it? Planning ahead. Yeah,
we know that the best word is inevitable. We know that a will covers the inevitable. And coming back to the lasting power of attorney, the lasting power of attorney isn't an insurance policy, but it's the closest thing to it, because that's a what if. All things being equal, I make a will today and I don't need to change anything in it, and I sign it correctly and it's all attested correctly and it's valid. That will is going to be used. And yes, it is selfless because I've looked after my family, but it does give me peace of mind as well. I've got two wonderful boys, Zach and JJ, and I've got a gorgeous wife, Jeannie, and I wouldn't want to make their lives any harder. And so by documenting what I want to happen and by looking after them, that makes me feel better as well. There isn't one client that's given us an instruction that said, I wish I hadn't done that. At the end of every consultation, a client has always said, I'm glad I've finally done that, because it's a tick in that box. They know they've looked after the family and they've done what they wanted to do. And more importantly, they might have received some really valuable advice along the way. But the lasting power of attorney, as I said, isn't an insurance policy. But the reason my wife and I have got that is neither of us want to be ill, neither of us want to be in an accident, but we know firsthand from dealing with it day in, day out, just how difficult that can be for a family if those documents aren't in place. And that's why it's so important to plan. Don't plan thinking it's going to happen. I've planned hoping I never need to use those documents, but they're there in case we do. And that is a massive peace of mind for both of us.
And it is such a small amount of money. Let's just remind you what your attorney can do. Let's have a look through these. So your chosen attorney can open, close and operate any account containing money. They can buy, sell and lease property, claim pensions, benefits, allowances, financial contributions, repayments and rebates. They can pay household bills, manage investments and deal with HMRC. That's Her Majesty's Revenue.
Our friends, the taxman.
So there you go, HMRC. Essentially, you choose someone that you can trust to manage your affairs, and in the eyes of the institutions and companies that they deal with, they become you. That's just going to make your life, for those that you leave behind, so much easier. So again, write this number down, give the team a call. They're waiting for your call right now. 0333 600 2600. It is as simple as that. You can have a quick chat with the planning crowd and you can organise somebody to come visit you if you wish. It's as simple as that. Just plan ahead, because you know you have to put it off, and if you put it off today, well, you may put it off another week, you may put it off another year, And that is when the problem's going to happen. Think about friends and family that you've got that perhaps have lost someone and they've told you the pain that they've been through, the difficulties that they've been through. This is a small amount of money that just makes life so much easier if you ever need to use it. And the chances are when you will need to use it. It's inevitable. Now, let me continue the journey for you. Helen, I wonder if you could tell us why the audience should really consider talking to the planning crowd when it comes to organising an LPA.
We've been drafting lasting powers of attorney since they were first introduced.
Yeah.
It may seem to some people that actually it's quite a straightforward process and a straightforward form, but there are so many things that can go wrong, so it's really important you speak to someone who knows what they're doing if you're considering doing this. The document itself has a number of different boxes that you can put directions in for your attorney.
Yeah.
If you get those wrong, or even just get the wording slightly wrong, when it comes to register that document, because you have to register it with the Office of the Public Guardian,
Oh, right.
at that point it might be rejected.
Oh, right.
Now, a lot of people don't actually register them until such point that they're needed. And
Yeah.
of course, if that happens and you've no longer got capacity, you can't go back and do it again. So it's really important that you get it right the first time round. I mean, the Office of the Public Guardian released a report saying that 15% of lasting powers of attorney that were submitted for registration by solicitors had errors in them. And that's a big problem.
Yeah, it
You
is.
don't want to get to that stage. You want it done right the first time round. You want to make sure that that document's correct, because if you do need it in the future, quite often you don't find out until it's too late that there's an error in it.
Yeah. I think it's really clear more and more and more that we need to get this done, and this is, again, a selfless thing to do, because you're thinking of your family, you're thinking of your friends, you're thinking of the people that you leave behind. So give the team a call. But I'm going to ask my next question to Ian. Ian, I guess in your opinion, could you tell us why you think it's so important for everyone to get an LPA?
It's just the what-if scenario, because you don't know if life's going to throw you a curveball. And this sounds a little bit crass, but if you do care for your family, it's a really, really selfless thing you can do. We have a Court of Protection department. The phone calls that we get, if someone has to go through the Court of Protection to get a deputyship order, which means that someone who's lost capacity didn't have a lasting power of attorney, that literally costs thousands of pounds and takes months, sometimes up to a year.
Oh my goodness.
In which time all kinds of problems occur, as you can imagine. Whereas if you've got a lasting power of attorney in place, even if you just let us validate it for you and confirm that it will be registered, it will be okay with the Office of Public Guardian. We would take that liability on and assure you that it will work. Once that's registered with the Office of Public Guardian, it's a matter of a few weeks for it to be registered, and then you can act as an attorney. And the contrast is huge, absolutely huge, because obviously nothing's going to make it better that someone's lost capacity through illness or an accident.
Sure.
But the difference between having a lasting power of attorney in place so they can act pretty much straight away, you can't put a price on that. It's massive. It's absolutely massive, because you're not adding to the burden.
Yeah.
You're not adding to the burden.
And let me ask you this, why should our customers take advantage of these offers today? Why should they do it right now and not put it off any longer?
Because it's a really powerful document. You know, you sit there and as we said earlier, people think it won't happen to me, I won't be in those circumstances, I'm still young, I'm fit. That's brilliant. You just don't know what's around the corner.
Yeah.
And I mean, we talk about losing capacity, and that's such a wide statement. I think everyone knows someone who's been affected by dementia or Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's in the news all the time. You know, it's a really big thing, and you just don't know whether something is going to happen. And we talk about that it's quite, you know, it's a difficult thing to broach. People don't want to think about it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to face it. But these documents are so powerful. You can have a lasting power of attorney, and you don't have